Of the Trump inauguration, I mean, at least do we look forward to the end of that kind of censorship industrial complex? Matt Taibbi was on the show the other day talking about the Twitter files, working with Elon Musk's data. I mean, what's going to happen to Zuckerberg, Sundar Pichai of Google? What do you expect? Not just related to your work, but to freedom of speech.
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I'm happy that you asked it. It's so ironic, right? I come from the left, as you mentioned in your introduction. I've been a lifelong Democrat, and then I walked away, and it finally endorsed President Trump, in alliance with RFK Jr. In advance of the election, and encouraged liberals and independents to vote for them. And it's so ironic because the massive groundswell of response, including from the legacy media, my former employers, The Guardian, fears that the Trump RFK era will be a time of fascism. And of course, the suppression of free speech is part of the fascist toolkit. I've been writing about that since my book, The End of America, which came out in 2008. But paradoxically, the people who censored me and Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger and, Professor Jay Bhattacharya of Stanford, who was making very important points about how lockdowns were going to drive millions of children into starvation, which they did. Professor Martin Kulldorff of Harvard, any number of serious people. The people who censored us, who were fascistic about freedom of speech, were the people I voted for. The Biden administration censored me in June of 2021 when I correctly warned women around the world, but especially in the West, that women were reporting menstrual disorders, serious menstrual disorders upon receiving this mRNA injection. That was correct. And the Pfizer papers abundantly documents a 360-degree war on human reproduction, which has resulted now in 2024 in a 13 to 20% drop in live births. 1 million missing babies in Western Europe, horrific, and there are charts in Pfizer documents of horrific damage that Pfizer knew they were causing to the fertility and the menses of women, the poisoning of breast milk, the blocking of ovaries with lipid nanoparticles, the compromise of placentas leading to what is now a 40% rise in live births, an over 80% miscarriage rate in one section of the Pfizer documents, 2 babies dying in utero in the pregnancy and lactation report that Pfizer said was due to maternal exposure to the vaccine. This went to the White House, and then Dr. Walensky told the women of America there was no bad time to get an injection before your baby was born, during your pregnancy, or after your baby was born.